All right, we are live. Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you only knew the effort to get here right now for all of us this second. All the behind the scenes. We should have made some bloopers. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sehon. Welcome to Swiftfire True TV. I'm very excited to have you guys with us today. Everybody who's watching out there, I would love to hear where you're from, what you're doing, if this is your first time. Also, so thankful for all the guys who support us monthly. Your memberships, that is amazing. That helps us keep this channel going. There is a lot of work involved in this, and every one of you guys who help support this and keep it going, oh my gosh, you guys are a blessing. Also want to just say that I did a drawing, and we did a free bioscan and a free consultation, and we do this monthly for our members. And Lisa DiMartino is the winner for this month. And so, yeah, definitely get out there and reach me through Facebook Messenger. And we're going to get going on your free bioscan and your consultation, valued at $222. So I'm excited to do that giveaway, and we will have our monthly meeting here too. So the topic of the today and our guests that are going to help me out with this topic is gene keys. And I have to admit, I am familiar with this title and with this big, well, there's two books here. This really, easy, 5-minute read here. Not a big deal. But I was introduced to Gene Keys when I was with Laura Eisenhower in Dallas, 2016, I believe. We were at she was teaching at a conference, and I was there with her. And there was a lady there in the audience, I guess, if you call it an audience, who had the book and had her computer out. And for anyone that was choosing to connect with her, she was doing this thing where you put in your name and all this stuff, and somehow it tells you a little bit about you. And she, I was like, oh, I always want to learn more and remember more about who I am and what I'm about. And so she went ahead and did it. But very similar to human design, when I saw what she had and just all the like maps and charts and graphics, I was just like, oh my God, my brain, so for me, it was, I never went past that. And she did tell me to get this book, and I did follow through with getting the book, as you can see. Have I read the book? No, I haven't read the book. Do I know anything about it anymore? And here we are, and how many years later? No. And it's come up again because we know Leslie has been on the show multiple times, both of these guys actually. And Leslie she does a lot of human design. And I know she mentioned it years ago. And then just more recently, Rani and I were just talking about other personal things. And it came up again. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe circle back. Maybe this is my season to really like hone in on something. Maybe there's something here for me with this. And Rainey had actually said something about taking some courses about it and blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? We don't need to. This is a great opportunity for me to learn. And then also anyone else who this is their path to maybe jump on board as well. So before we get going on the Gene Keys situation, I'm going to just welcome my guests. Rani Curtis, she's a naturopathic doctor, and also Leslie Davis, who does amazing coaching, human design, energy worker. I mean, I'm going to let them say who they are and what they do, because they have a very wide range of skill set, not to mention very, very personal friends of mine that I have known for many, many years and worked with for many, many years. I have a lot of people who come on my show, but I'm very specific about the word friend. And I absolutely consider these people friend, trustworthy people that I would walk with any minute, and they always have my back and I have your backs. And there's a very big difference between just a person I interview and a person that I not just love, because I love everyone, but I absolutely like and stand by these two people, very much so. And so my stamp of approval is, it takes a lot to get that stamp. And these guys are trustworthy. And these are beautiful hearts that these people walk in love. They embody love. They live the journey of love and truth. And so without further ado, both of you guys, start with Rani. Tell me a little, about you for those who've not met you before, and then we'll get to Leslie, and let's do this.
Yay. Thank you so much. I feel very cracked open and moved by your beautiful words. Thank you. I'm honored. And yeah, I'm Rani Curtis. I live in New Zealand with my family and my 3 children. And we're all surfers. We're a surfing family. And I'm a naturopath. And in my journey of being a naturopath and discovering the human body and what lies deeper and deeper, as Sharnael always loves to interview, the energy, the frequency, the conscious language, all the bits behind what our bodies are actually manifesting has become such a passion of mine. And the Gene Keys has been a big part of that in the last year only for me. So yeah, I see clients for naturopathic consults as well as like empowerment coaching. So I met Sharnael, I don't even remember the year, but when I got into essential oils and my whole life changed, and then was so honored that Sharnael came to New Zealand with Gary and I got to meet them both, and just the transmission, the energy, the exchange that came from being in their presence was amazing and so influential in my awakening process. So I'm just so grateful to be on this journey, and really honored that we get to talk about Gene Keys.
Awesome. And 2, I'm going to differentiate. There's Facebook friends, and then there's people that I actually spend physical time with and hang out with. And yes, Rani and I have hung out not only in New Zealand, but she came and visited with us at a retreat in the States here. And Leslie and I hang out way more often than Rani. I wish we could see you more, Rani, being in New Zealand. That's a little bit more difficult, but Leslie and I aren't too far from each other, and she's actually the photographer of my project with my cards too. So just to give you a little bit more background on Leslie and our connection, I think we met 2004 or something. Soren was just born, so that's been a minute. My middle child. So how many years is that? I have to do the math, but go for it, Leslie.
Thank you for everything. You're amazing. And Rani, you too. We actually met at the retreat that you mentioned. So we became friends through Sharnael, and we're really good friends. Rani is one of those people you just click with. I do. Those people that are just friends with all the time, even if you don't talk every day. It's like this real depth of friendship there, which I very much cherish. But my name is Leslie, and I live on the Gulf Coast. So I'm a beach girl. We don't have waves to really surf here. We have a few you can kind of surf, but I have 2 boys, and I work in the roofing industry, and I also coach women, and I coach with the essence of really bringing your energy into alignment with who you truly are. And human design has definitely been a vehicle for that. And it's not always exactly the vehicle, but Gene Keys really allowed. I don't coach on Gene Keys. I'm not professionally educated at Gene Keys, just a disclaimer there if someone, but I've had such a journey with it, and I've obviously told all my friends. And but it's been such a piece of allowing evolution to go even deeper and to become even more real. And so I think for the people who are the seekers, who like to know a little bit more about who you are, Gene Keys can really unlock some things in places that you've been maybe stuck or uncertain, or like you can't really, like you can feel like something's there, but it can't get moved, which is really in that subconscious, right, energy body typically, rather than something new that's normal every day. So that's one of the reasons I love Gene Keys. I will say it can be very overwhelming, and that's why it's just let it come at the right time. Letting it, like you just said, Sharnael, like you let it come, you read through it, and you probably got a lot from it then. Because I remember the first time I read through it, there was a lot. But so yeah, I help women kind of unfold a lot of who they are. I like to. It's kind of like I'm the unbecoming coach, like I help people unbecome who they thought they were to really evolve into who they've always been, to remember the aspects of their soul. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Well, what is or are gene keys? Like, who's gene? Or is it genetics when they say gene? Is it like word for genetics? Like, who's gene? What's going on with the gene key? Who's the key?
You can look at it that way with genetics. It was, we can say it was received as a download or a divine inspiration through a man named Richard Rudd. And it was really this awakening back to the energy of the human soul that you carry, your own imprint. Richard Rudd was a student of human design for a very long time. And he was actually with the initial gentleman who downloaded human design. And so Richard Rudd, when this came through, it was really a way for people to evolve, allow their souls to evolve and to kind of become more true and more authentic. Because Sharnael, something you say all the time is the frequency of truth and authenticity. Like, there's nothing like it, really. It's so potent. It's so powerful. There's such freedom in it. And so Gene Keys really allows you to look at your DNA. And the more authentic we become, the more love we emanate. It's kind of how I see it. The more love for yourself, the more love you can give. So it really, produces a graph. You put in your birth information on the Gene Keys website, and it will produce a graph. Rainey, can you show your graph so people can know what it looks like? It's called a hologram. And so it's very confusing at first. I was going to do a screen share, and it won't let me share my screen. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of bubbles and a lot of numbers in the bubbles, and all the bubbles have meaning. And, when there is a path. It's not just every bubble to itself. And so, yeah, it helps you unlock different essences that you already carry in your energy body.
So good. And I would just add, that's awesome, because I didn't want to have to define anything like that. But for me, what's kind of in my own language, what's come through is it's like this ancient wisdom that was like embodied and brought forth in the I Ching, right? And it's like it's come to the surface again to be remembered. And it's like there's this time of awakening that we're ready for this transmission, that it really is a transmission. Mm-hmm. And you need to know, I am a reader. I devour books. Mm-hmm. I've had this for a year. I haven't read it all. You virtually can't read it front to back. It's so powerful. It's so potent. It's such a transmission that you are receiving so much in your spirit, in your consciousness when you're interacting with your Gene Keys. So that's what I would say. It's a transmission. It's very potent, and it's incredible in seasons of my life where I've just been drawn to the book and just to open it or to ask which Gene Key I should read, and it's exactly what I'm experiencing in my life at that time, the shadow of it, and it helps shift my focus towards what's the gold, what's the lesson, what am I transmuting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess I don't know. I mean, I guess I know we're all one, but correct me if I'm wrong, aren't we with your birthday and whatever kind of more like astrology or human design? Isn't there one that's us versus whatever? Or maybe I didn't understand that. Explain that a little bit. Because you're saying you just read whatever you pick up. That's just more intuitive of what you're feeling today versus I'm a 43 or whatever, I don't know. I mean, numbers, right?
We have, how many are there all up? Count how many Gene Keys are in our profile, but we've got 4 main ones, and Leslie will describe it some more.
There's some in each path. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and so, but what I'm saying, and what Richard Rudd does say when he shares different transmissions and gene keys is that we do experience them because we're all interacting with different other people's gene keys, and so they are alive and in our lives at different times, you know. So because we are one, we're interacting with everyone else's gene keys. And but yeah, your life's work and your purpose, there are specific ones that are you.
Yeah. So if you're really, something I didn't know when I first was introduced to gene keys years ago is, so you get this graph and it has all these numbers on it. And like, I found each number, like it would be like, my first number was 37. Well, I'm going to go look up 37 and see what that says. And I would read about it. And when you read about gene key 37, so there are these individual numbers, it will give you three states of consciousness for that gene key. You have your shadow, which is your lowest frequency, your neutrality, and then your higher frequency, the city. So it's the gift. The middle one's called the gift in gene keys. And that's really, so 37, you see how the 37 gene key, you read about the shadow of it. And for me, for example, it's weakness. And the gift is equality, and the city, which is like the higher frequency of this gift, is a tenderness. And so it has something written about each within the book, or within the framework of human design. I can read about each level of the frequency. And once I'm reading, what really is beneficial is for me to reflect, do I see that in my life? Do I see where weakness has played a role in my life, and where I didn't really feel equal, or maybe I wasn't able to view others as equal? You know, it can have different, it's all about states of consciousness. The gene keys is all about your states of consciousness, your energy, and everyone's blueprint is different, yet we're all connected. And so whenever I can recognize that weakness, and it allows me, when I've been exposed to gene keys, I can then really shift into that frequency of the tenderness, and perhaps, or the equality, and then the tenderness. And if you look at your gene key within the sphere, I'm going to kind of dive into this for a minute. Is that okay, Sharnael? Okay. So your very first sphere is the little bubble to the top. It's called, every sphere, so every bubble has a title. The very top one that has a blue and green color is called your life's work. And that is really your ideal way of showing up in the external world as the most authentic version of you. And within gene keys, there is a path, and that's something I didn't realize years ago. I would spend time looking up each number individually, and I recognized all of them in me. And I could recognize, because I'd already done a lot of awakening work, I'm like, I literally journaled about how I used to do this. And now, so I had really transcended or broken out of a lot of the negative lower frequency patterns, but they were definitely, I was able to reflect and clearly see them in my life. Codependency being one of mine. So it's some other gene key or whatever. And so you see all of this. And so the whole idea is that you take the golden path. The golden path is walking from one gene key to the next, contemplating it. And the class that's offered on gene keys is a 12-month class, and they spend a month on each gene key. It is when you're really diving deep, because it's reflection, it's unfolding, it's reflection, and you have to have time and space to really do that. Reading a paragraph and then zooming to the next paragraph and zooming, you will get something from it, but as a whole, it's more or less a contemplative, allowing it to emerge and make itself, you know, bring it to your consciousness. So that's kind of my take on it. I have never spent 12 months. I have never spent 1 month on a gene key, disclaimer, but I have spent several days with them, and then basically worked my way along the path from the first gene key to like the second one, which is considered your evolution. And when you move, when you look at these two energies, let's say I look them up in the book or online, number 37 and number 24, whatever it is. This is called your challenge. So the path between the gene keys also offers us a gift. And when we can see that a lot of times the energy of our evolution sphere, I'm saying this because this is where they are on the chart, often will be in opposition to your life's work sphere. That's why it's called the challenge, because it's actually that overcoming, the evolving, right? And so that's kind of, it is deep, and it can be a lot when you really dig into it, but it can offer so much. And there, the I Ching, the lines are in there, the 6 lines of the I Ching. So it's 37 would be the gate number in the top sphere, and then 0.3. There's, whatever comes after the dot will be the flavor of the gene key. I have a lot of 3s. So, everything's flavored with its different energies. So although it looks the same, there's still so much individualized energy within it. But it's a beautiful journey, and to work your way from like one gene key to the next, rather than just like looking at all of them sporadically, will kind of, again, even though looking at them sporadically does a lot for you, following the path also unlocks something even deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say following the path, explain that a little bit.
Okay, so it's like the order of the gene keys. So so like there's 3 sequences within the golden path, which is what they call the entire hologram. And the four cardinal directions, the 4 outer spheres you see, that's your very first path. So you go from the top one, which is your life's work, down to your evolution. Rani, can you point to that? And then across, all the way across to your other genes. So that right there, between those 2 middle ones, is really a breakthrough point. And when you look at those 2 energies that are denoted there in the spheres, and it shows you the lower frequency, the gift, and the higher frequency, you can see, I was like, wow, when I saw mine, because they were literally almost, I call it your kryptonite. It's like when you look at those lower frequencies, you will often recognize that lower frequency of your evolution almost as your kryptonite. Like, yeah, that's the one that gets me. I'm going, it's going to be a downward spiral from there. But your radiance is very linked to even your physical health. You want to have a radiant, vital life. Look at what's with being the energy of your radiant gene key, and the connection between that and your evolution. So that's the path. It's the north across and then down to the bottom. Yeah. So that's the very first gene key path that you would look at. And it's called the activation sequence. And then the next sequence that you would move to is the Venus sequence and it goes up. Rani? Yep, there you go. And you can just follow the lines there. And the Venus sequence is all about relationships and how you interact with relationships. You'll see a lot of your wounding, your emotional intelligence, your attraction, what's important for you. Playfulness is really important for me. It's an energy that's in my attraction sphere. I know, right? And I can see that when I haven't had that, whether it's in friendships or relationships or jobs, I almost can't, it just sucks my soul. So it really is a very important element to me. So instead of condemning myself, no, I don't need to be playful, I'm not a child, or someone else going like, why are you so silly? Instead of letting others, giving them the power, I can understand the importance of playfulness for me and the importance of that joy and own it. So it gives you a deeper level of ownership of this energy that you already kind of know that you have. But now you're like for real rocking it. You know what I mean? Like the difference in like knowing it and like rocking it. And then the last sequence within Gene Keys is the prosperity sequence. And it's the very inner circle. And a lot of people, of course, want to jump right to that one. But what happens is you don't have the full unfolding. So it doesn't really have the same effect as someone who typically like goes, through the entire path. And it's a beautiful gift. It is a lot. So you just take it one sphere at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot. I know. There's probably a simpler explanation. I try to make it simple, but I don't know if I do a good job. I probably don't do a good job of that. So
yeah,
it's good.
I'm wondering, like, why it's just, what is that like sacred geometry? Is it layered?
All of it's connected to geometry. And then you have the 4 cardinal directions is your first outer, if you notice that. And so it's like really having that framework, and then that, getting into the deeper and deeper.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, it is. It's the outer, and then it goes deeper and inner.
So, Rani, studying this for a year, you've done this now? And so your first month compared to your last month, like what,
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a crazy last year, so much transformation. And It was a really hard year for me and many people, and a lot of personal challenges, like the deepest personal challenges I have faced in my life. And the gene keys, in some ways I could blame the gene keys, because maybe it wouldn't have been activated if I didn't have no blame, an empowered soul. But, you know, it triggered some awakening in my life, but it's the grace that it imparts that I just want to talk all about, because I done one of the, no, actually before I paid for a course through Gene Keys, I did the free course. It was 7 Days of Grace. And actually in the midst of doing the 7 Days of Grace, I think I'm a day 3 in, my whole world is ripped apart. And I am in the midst of grace while going through the deepest challenge of my life. And I continued with it because I could feel the grace coming through the free course I was doing and the meditations and what it was focusing me on, unconditional love. And in my brokenness and in my pain, I was just transmuting so much of my personal pain and suffering. And the Gene Keys was just so integral to that, and unfolding and unraveling from that, looking into my my radiance, that the one over this side, that this is where we keep, healthy and thriving. So in the midst of my suffering, the shadow of that one is opinion, and the gift is farsightedness, and the city is omniscience, being able to see from multiple perspectives. So this imparted to me so much grace that I would sit in.
Slow down with that, just so you said the first part was what?
The shadow opinion. Opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So if to stay in that shadow state and what I was going through, I would just be, mulling over my opinion and sitting in it, being in it, and not seeing from anyone else's perspective.
Okay.
And farsightedness is the gift. So then I can look and see from a distance into other people's world. And then omniscience, being able to sit and be in another's perspective and experience. This imparted to me the wildest grace, that I could sit and be love in the midst of my personal pain, and not blame, and just to sit in love. And this is where it's like, you just can't make this stuff up. Like, in the midst of doing a free course on 7 Days of Grace, I am just given the biggest test of grace, forgiveness, love of my life.
Did you say the city? What
city? Yeah,
the city. So what does that even mean, the city?
So like Leslie was saying, the cities are the higher states of consciousness. It's like basically you being your highest self. It's basically how Holy Spirit would be. It's godlike.
And
it's
you're saying, to be clear, you're saying CITY, like living in a city?
It's like Indian kind of SIDDHI, city.
Okay, city. Okay, good. Because I'm just trying to wrap my head around the language. It's very different. I wonder what city mean. What does city mean?
I forgot, but I can look it up.
You could look it up, but it really is the highest state of consciousness. And I opened the book exactly to city.
Perfect.
Of course. What? Of course
it's an Indian religions. Yeah, I knew it was a
it's from Sanskrit, meaning divine gift.
Yeah. So it's the divine frequency.
So my divine gift to myself and my world in this season has been omniscience. To sit and see from another's perspective, to transmute shadow of opinion, to to let that go and sit and feel another's experience.
Wow.
Mm.
And
I
since
mean,
that was her
personal-
radiance key, it relates to her personal vitality and everything as well.
Yes.
her go back. I'm sorry, it was a little muffly. Her radiance.
So
Yeah.
the gene key, so every sphere has a title. Every key has a title. And so it was her radiance gene key is the title of the sphere that it was located in. So everyone's radiance is the same spot. Everyone's life's work is the same spot. And under life's work, you'll have a number. And so she had this number. What number is it, Rani?
17.
So 17 is her radiance. And she just described the frequency levels of the 17th gene key. And so for her to consciously choose the state of the higher frequency, not ignoring her feelings, but allowing them to pass through her. So she essentially alchemized them, and she essentially allowed the feelings of the turmoil and the pain, but she consciously chose a higher perspective from that being her heart's desire, not from force, not from, it was from this tenderness place. And that in her own body resulted in her body being able to even hold what was happening and to elevate through the situation as well.
Thank you for explaining that so well. But yes, I love that you brought the word, body and embody, because that is what is the shift. And that is why you need to sit with these gene keys for longer, because it's about embodying them, and it's not head knowledge at all. And if you try and rush through it, this shallow learning, it's just not how you interact with the gene keys. Richard Rudd talks so much about contemplation, and it really is a contemplative, it's creating your life to be contemplative and to reflect on everything and every interaction. Like, I wonder why this is mirroring back this to me, and taking it to that higher perspective instead of reacting and then finger pointing, and because the radiance connects with the purpose, right? These two. And sorry, I can't. I don't know how to disconnect the computer's phone ring. It connects with the purpose, which mine, the shadow, is judgment, which is linked with the shadow of opinion, and the gift is integrity, and the city is perfection. So those two together, linking that shadow of judgment and opinion, was really what I came here to transmute. And growing up with religion and that kind of stuff, you can see it in my life all the time. You can see when the Holy Spirit is at work in me, I'm shifting. I'm having my the finger put on all the judgments that I have, all these subtle things running through. It just imparts so much grace. You're not like, oh, I'm just such a judgy person. You're like, I actually came here to shift that. I came to shift judgment and opinion, and to move through it and actually start to feel into people and connect with them and understand them and soften and move into integrity. And you just instead of judging yourself, you actually go, oh, I actually signed up to help with that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool because it helps you actually do the work as well, because you're like, this is not just for me, this is for everyone. And when I do this authentic, grounded, pure, embodied work, everyone gets it in my energy field. My children get it. When I talk with people, they get it energetically for free because I did the real work.
For free. Awesome. Yes. I think Gene Keys is incredible too, because it allows people to enter into their own study, because we're seeing this explosion of coaches and mentors, because in the old ways, whenever the mystical societies, whenever they're very private, everything was through this training and this discipleship. Discipleship is not the word. It's not what we know it to be within our backgrounds, right? Not true discipleship. It was actually a mystical, spiritual community that was kind of the, for lack of a better word, the hierarchy, the way that things worked. And what we're having now is this breakout. And so I feel like especially for those who do not feel like they're in a place. They want to expand. They can feel in their soul. They want to go deeper. Like there's more. They're wondering what their soul's purpose is. They're wondering how to be truer. They hear something and they're like, oh, I want to be like that. Gene Keys allows you the space to do that. Even if you can't maybe afford a coach or take a course, it allows you this guide of being able to reflect on your own if you're willing to sit down with it. But without the coach and mentor, you're still just you're kind of have to have that. It's more than discipline, it's devotion. It's devotion to the mission that, you're here for, devotion to the next level of who you are, because we're humans and we're always moving from glory to glory. We're never, if you're stagnant, you're happy with everything, like that's amazing, but that's just not who I am naturally. Like I'm like, ooh, better, bigger, let's keep going. I'm a different person than I was 2 months ago. I think I say that every 2 months, guys. Y'all know that. Y'all are my friends. And I mean it, is the crazy thing. Yeah, but Gene Keys allows you a guide to really go deep questions.
Yes. Yeah, well, a bit of a
map. I like the map idea. And, of course, there's lots of different tools out there. I mean, you mentioned astrology, which I just never went there before. I mean, I used to read all of that when I was a kid, and then I got away from it whenever I was introduced to church because it was so bad. It was the devil. And then I understood the science of it and the ether and how it imprints when you're born. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, there were wise men that followed the stars and, different things that we looked at. Of course, there's human design, I choose to remember any other different kind of modalities where people, study. Course in Miracles is one of like, people have something every day and do together. Can you think of some other things that compare really to kind of Gene Keys or?
Go ahead, Rani.
No, I can't think of any.
No,
it's such a deep contemplative thing and it's so personal. Whereas for me, it's different than astrology because astrology, there's so many moving parts. Like I would, prefer for my personal preference, if I was going to have a natal chart experience, I would want it to be with someone who's taken a lot of courses and done it for years, because there's so many different aspects that I can't read on one thing and get the full picture. Whereas Gene Keys, you have all the information kind of contained, but it is a lot deeper. It's a lot deeper into the soul print in terms of looking at your own life reflection of where do you have that shadow frequency. Whereas astrology for me is more of, kind of an observation of energy. But even once you learn to work with energy and master energy, even that can be kind of transcended, which is what we've, learned in this new space and time of the earth. So, because you can consciously choose because your intention is so powerful. So that's one of the differences. But I think there's so many modalities and they're all beautiful. And I think allowing yourself to explore which one you're called to, when you're called to it, is just a gift to yourself. And like Rani, it's free, like free for my kids.
Yes.
Free for all the people.
Yes. Yeah. So I've got all my family's profiles and I keep them in the book and bookmark them in their different ones. And there's so many patterns running through my family. It's just fascinating. You just have lots of aha moments. Like, I can see that. And like with one of my daughters, I just had an epiphany because I was like trying to parent her like I would need parenting. And in her duties, it says she thrives with just having so much on, juggling so many things and with so much interaction. And I was like, really? Like, I'm trying to protect her from that because I need to protect myself from that. And actually she needs that. And so I just let go and just allowed her, to be in her evolution and her like strength. And there's been so many of those for my own personal family and of course myself, just grace for yourself. Like, that's just the lens that I've come into this life. It's just the angle. It's the shadow I've come to transmute. And so you stop being so hard on yourself, really.
So,
Yeah, and
this is something you could do where you overlap with family, your partner. What about businesses? Is that such a thing? Because I know
influences, it does have, like, so when you do your profile, this is the other backside of the page, or the other page, and it has this amazing just overview in words, and that was like so many like truth bombs. So it's really great. genekeys.com, when you put in your stuff, you get that, but then this is just so good to read, and I've done it with a bunch of friends, and like there's tears, and there's just so much just like, just it's self-acceptance, I would say, that comes through this. And yeah, you're asking about business. I was going to say one more thing, but it just jumped down my head.
The life's work is seen as your brand because it's external out in the world, the life's work sphere, but you will typically take the entire pathway. And after you finish up with that prosperity sphere, then it becomes the brand sphere. So it starts out, you end with it. You start with your life's work sphere, which is at the top, and you end with it once you follow the path. And so you go through this sequence of personal activation, and then you move into the Venus sequence of relationships and connection. And then you move into the prosperity sphere, which is the blue dots together. And then you kind of end. And when you come back to that life's work, you really will see what is recognized as your brand. And really looking at all of those together will tell you how you really work best. Personal thing for me is mine's really based in community. Super important that I'm in community. And I have watched over the past 4 or 5 months me get way more involved hands-on in my local community, and watched my own energy shift with that. And I've just laughed so hard. I'm like, I created this life of like stagnancy and almost isolation in a weird way that I didn't realize I'd created because I was busy being a mom, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But looking back now, I just laugh at the reflection. I'm like, yeah, see that there. And there's always these new layers, going back and even looking at your life's work after you looked at it a year or two ago, it holds a different meaning and a different depth for you. So it's a very beautiful journey, but it is, if you're willing to put in the time, I always suggest to people, if they're wanting to do this, I'm going to give you some like 4 1 2 3s. What do I do? Go to genekeys.com and print your hologram, and it will give you little summaries, as Rani said. And those summaries are the activation sequence. That is your four beginning points. And you can read on each of those as well. You're going to print your hologram, and then you're going to take each sphere that's labeled. So your second thing is you're going to look at the name of the sphere, life's work sphere. What does the life's work sphere represent? I'm going to find out because I have Google. I can do that. Okay. And then the third thing is I'm going to look at the main number. So Rani, what's your top number?
52.
What's your line?
2.
Okay.
Oh,
so Rani's sphere says 52.2. So I know what my life's work sphere is. I know what the life's work represents. I'm going to look at gene key 52, and I'm going to read about it. And then I'm going to look at the line number 2, and it'll tell you on there, Rani, what's the energy of line 2 on yours?
Dancer.
So what is what does the energy of the dancer mean? Let me look it up, because it might be a little different than you're traditionally thinking, because again, we're conditioned. So we need to look up. So therefore, once I look these elements up, I look up the name of the sphere, the gene key, and the line, those 3 things. Now I have a more complete picture of what life's work represents and how it is the energy I can reflect on it for myself. So that's where I start. I look up those 3 things. And then when I'm ready to move on to the next sphere, I do the same thing. Look up those 3 things.
Okay. Well, I think that you've given us a little bit of homework. I know where I'm going whenever we get off of this call, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm inspired to do this. And in the class, do they do the 7-day thing pretty often, or is that?
Yep, that's just an online course. That one is free. I don't know if I recommend it. It's so amazing, but I mean, wow, maybe don't start there. I think, yeah.
Okay,
so you can work with a gene key coach and have a chart reading just like you can a human design session.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do all of the work yourself. If you would rather pay a coach to like set up a gene key reading with you, they will walk through everything with you. And so that's always an option too. I do not offer gene key readings, but I have a couple of referrals of people that do that I really trust. And so you can do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do readings, Rani? Have you gotten there yet? Is that where you're going, you think? Or are you just like...
I'm open, but no, I'm definitely asking the questions, and I'm just doing them just with friends. But I'm just learning really, and loving it. And it's funny about not recommending 7 Days of Grace, maybe because my middle name's Grace and my first name's Rani, so Queen of Grace, and I just dive deep into like the most transformative, needing to expand in grace of my life. So that's why I say that. But really start where Leslie said, do your profile and read the pages and just start there and sit with it. And really, because it's in transmission, it's just about being intuitively guided and led as well, because things are going to come up in your life, synchronicities and beautiful things that are going to guide you. And that's the most important thing, is that, God in you knows, and just take it at the speed of what you're ready and willing to expand into, because
awesome,
it's beautiful and amazing. And just follow Gene Keys and on Instagram or whatever, so you're just getting this just kind of daily washing of the consciousness of the material, because it's very powerful and beautiful.
Oh, so they have something daily, almost like a meditation or some sort of like word or something every day.
Yeah. I think that does align with astrology as far as I'm concerned. The dates that, people are born, those they put those ones on. And on YouTube, he does some meditations and some little short like things, and I've found those really
And that's
beautiful.
Richard Rudd?
Yeah, Gene Keys. I think you can, it's under Gene Keys on YouTube, SoundCloud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys so much. And, where can we find you guys, for those of you who are interested in more naturopathic work or coaching or design, or, oh my gosh, you guys do all the things. Where can everybody find you?
Yep, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, just Rani Curtis. I'd love to connect with you on there. And my website is harmonichealth.nz.
Awesome.
I'm on Instagram at I am Leslie Denise, and Leslie Denise Davis is my Facebook. So there you go.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I know all you guys watching, our main reason for doing shows like this is to look at a lot of different tools that can help people to find their own empowerment, to not give our power away by wanting this person to tell us this about us, or this person opinion, like she mentioned earlier, to be the thing, or the news to tell us whatever, or the neighbor to tell us whatever, but us, to really find our own empowerment and growth opportunities within ourselves. And maybe this is for you, and maybe this isn't for you, whatever. Again, that's why we try to have so much diversity on a lot of different topics, because there's so many things that God has given us to help crack the code. And sometimes there's seasons of one thing or the other, and sometimes they merge together, and sometimes they're very separate, So again, I just really appreciate both of you being here today to explore this tool. I encourage you guys, if this is something you're interested in, I'll be putting in a link here for the book, and I will be putting up the links that they mentioned earlier, and I'll definitely be putting up their links in their bio. But you can definitely go to swiftfire.org and get on the newsletter. That way you're kind of up to date on all the shows that are coming up. And I do a newsletter every week on some sort of content for just health and natural health. And of course, the show is every Thursday with lots of different people. from the paranormal to UFOs to health to gene keys. I keep wanting to say codes, but so we love having you guys, and your energy has been so great today. And just thank you for being the beings that you are, the radiant beings, and love you so much. Love your family, and everyone who's watching, sending you guys love. Just be staying in tune too for our next member meeting, and we get to see each other live in Zoom. Our member meetings are very different because when you guys watch the show, it's usually just me and whoever, Craig or whatever the guest is. But when we do our Zooms, that's an actual get together with everybody. We see everyone's faces. People talk. We exchange information. We're learning about each other. We're getting to know each other. We're building a literal community. Even though we're far away, we're able to kind of connect in that way and to learn together and to pray for each other and to see where people are at. And we do readings, and we do giveaways, and we do fun things. Like we just had a burn party, and we decided to burn away, all the things that weren't serving us, and, just fun things. We try to make it fun. And it's been so fun for me to actually connect with people because I'm used to doing conferences and seeing people in real life, and, hugging people and seeing everyone eye to eye and signing books and, getting to know and hear their stories. And this is a way that we're doing that through the members thing. So if you feel like you're looking for a community and you want to hang out and meet other people who are similar, our membership is a great opportunity to do that as well. So you could there's a link for that as well. So all that being said, great time, a great episode this week. You guys have a lovely week, and thank you for everything. And we will see you next Thursday. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.